see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sex.
While most riders were still focused on adapting to the bike and track conditions, Toprak Razgatlioglu did something almost unthinkable. Without much ado, without much attention, the Turkish rider quietly prepared a major surprise on the second day of the 2026 SEPANG MotoGP shakedown test. From the morning, Toprak looked different, not only in his consistent lap rhythm, but also in the way he mastered the still relatively new and wild Yamaha V4. In SEPANG's fast corners, Toprak braked extremely late, pushing the bike to limits never before attempted by a Yamaha rider. Many assumed it was simply an exploration of his riding style, but everything changed when the times began to appear on the timing screen. Lap after lap, his time continued to be whittled away. Toprak's trademark extreme corner entry technique actually seemed increasingly effective in MotoGP. The Yamaha V4, previously considered difficult to control, now seemed obedient in his hands. The combination of late braking, extreme lean angles, and brutal acceleration out of corners silenced the paddock. The climax came when Toprak recorded the second fastest time of the day, breaking the SEPANG shakedown test record. It wasn't just the time record, but also the way he achieved it that shocked everyone. A technique previously considered impossible in MotoGP was executed flawlessly by Toprak. Even more surprising, Toprak did it without drama. There were no exaggerated celebrations, no provocative statements. He simply returned to the pits with a calm expression, as if the record was just a small part of a larger plan. This attitude was precisely what made his rivals and other teams begin to feel threatened. Yamaha engineers were all smiles. Data showed that the bike's stability had improved dramatically under Toprak's control. Traction, braking, and even cornering speed were at levels they had never achieved before. This was no longer a matter of adaptation. It was a clear statement that Toprak was no mere newcomer to MotoGP. The second day of the SEPANG test concluded with one conclusion that was hard to deny. Toprak Razgatlioglu had changed the landscape of the 2026 MotoGP World Championship. With a technique considered impossible, he proved that the limits of a bike could be surpassed in the hands of the right rider. Here's the full story. The second day of the 2026 MotoGP shakedown test in SEPANG turned into a stage for major surprises. Amidst the focus of the major teams still searching for the ideal setup, one name was quietly moving. Toprak Razgatlioglu didn't arrive with promises or bold statements. He arrived with a plan, and that plan was executed in a way that stunned the entire paddock. From the very beginning of the session, Toprak seemed completely attuned to the Yamaha V4. This bike, however, was still considered impractical. Many riders complained about its aggressive braking and instability when entering fast corners. But in Toprak's hands, the bike seemed to speak a new language. His understanding of the grip of the SEPANG track demonstrated an unusual level of confidence for a rider still in the early stages of adapting to MotoGP. Toprak's first laps were paced at a controlled pace. He didn't immediately set a fast time. His focus was clearly on consistency and data collection. But each time he returned to the track, his times dropped. Little by little, without realizing it, his name began to rise to the top of the timing screens. What surprised many technicians and fellow riders was his riding style. Toprak braked much deeper than the other riders. The front tire was forced to work at its limit, while the rear of the bike appeared to lift slightly, a signature superbike technique he brought to MotoGP. This technique had been considered too risky for MotoGP bikes for years, but Toprak turned it into a key weapon. In the technical areas of SEPANG, especially the slow corners that demand high stability, Toprak looked increasingly confident. He entered corners at extreme lean angles, maintained speed for longer, and then exited with brutal acceleration. The Yamaha V4, previously considered underpowered, now looked aggressive and efficient in his hands. As the session progressed, the atmosphere in the paddock began to change. Several teams began to pay attention to Yamaha's data. Engineers lingered longer in front of the monitors. Other riders began comparing sector times. Everyone realized something unusual was happening. And the moment finally came. Toprak recorded a perfect lap. The first sector was green, the second sector green, and the third sector green. When the time finally appeared on the screen, silence fell over the pit lane. The SEPANG shakedown test record was officially broken. Not by a rider with years of experience in MotoGP, but by Toprak Razgatlioglu, a newcomer to the prototype world. What made this result even more surprising was the way he achieved it. There was no excessive slipstream, no special conditions, purely technique and courage. Techniques previously considered impossible for MotoGP bikes were the key to his success. After setting the fastest time, Toprak didn't immediately stop. He returned to the track and demonstrated consistency. For the next few laps, he remained in the top lap range. This wasn't just a lucky lap. It was proof that such speed could be repeated. In the Yamaha pits, expressions of satisfaction began to appear. The technicians noted significant improvements in braking stability and cornering efficiency. The data showed that Toprak's input provided a clear development direction for the Yamaha V4. The bike was not only fast, but also becoming easier to handle. Meanwhile, in the other pits, concerns began to emerge. Some of his rivals were beginning to realize that Toprak was not only a talented rider, but also one capable of changing the bike's character. He wasn't adapting to the bike, he was forcing it to follow his style. Toward the end of the second day, the SEPANG sky began to change color. The session was almost over, but the impact of Toprak's actions was just beginning. Quietly, without much attention, he had sent a powerful message to the entire 2026 MotoGP grid. The message was simple, yet frightening. If Toprak was already capable of breaking records with techniques considered impossible in the shakedown test, imagine what would happen when the season truly began, with his setup perfected and his confidence soaring. The second day of the SEPANG test concluded with one reality that could not be ignored. MotoGP 2026 would not go as many had predicted. Toprak Razgatlioglu had opened a new chapter. And for his rivals, this might just be the beginning of a long nightmare. The second day of the SEPANG MotoGP shakedown test has officially concluded, and the results have truly evoked a mixture of wonder, admiration, and immense optimism, especially for loyal Yamaha fans, known as the Tune Forks. What happened today was more than just another lap time, but an early sign that Yamaha is preparing something serious for the future of MotoGP. Jack the Thriller Miller topped the timesheets. The Australian rider posted a time of 1 minute 57.908 seconds, a highly impressive time for a shakedown session. Even more impressive, this time was only about 1.6 seconds shy of the all-time SEPANG lap record of 1 minute and 56.337 seconds. This is a relatively small difference considering the track conditions, the demanding nature of SEPANG, and the fact that the bikes used were still in the development stage. However, the biggest highlight of the day was clearly not just who was fastest, but what they rode. Jack Miller set that time on a V4-powered Yamaha M1. Yes, this is the bike that has been the subject of speculation, heated discussion, and high hopes among Yamaha fans for months. This V4 engine marks a major shift in philosophy for the Iwata-based manufacturer, which has for years remained loyal to the inline-4 configuration. On the track, the Yamaha M1 V4 looks much more aggressive, especially when accelerating out of corners. The more ferocious engine sound, seemingly more stable traction, and increased straight-line speed are evidence that Yamaha is truly determined to close the gap on its rivals. Yamaha engineers were busy in the pits, recording data after data, while the paddock's attention slowly turned to a single blue garage. It didn't stop there. Toprak Razgatlioglu's name was once again a hot topic. The Turkish rider performed exceptionally well and showed significant progress. Toprak looked increasingly confident riding the Yamaha M1 V4, even pushing the bike to its extreme limits at times, something that has long been a hallmark of his riding style. Toprak's mastery of the braking phase was truly striking. He entered corners aggressively, maintaining the bike's stability, then immediately unleashed the V4 engine's power as he exited the corner with great precision. Many observers believe that the Yamaha V4 engine's characteristics perfectly suit Toprak's riding style, which is full of control, sharp instincts, and a willingness to take risks. Most interestingly, Toprak's adaptation to the new engine was deemed to have occurred more quickly than initially expected. While riders typically need a long time to truly meld with the V4's characteristics, Toprak seemed to accelerate that process. He now appears to be increasingly mastering the Yamaha V4 engine, not just riding it, but truly.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad. After her there ain't no coming back. Wanna take a run at that. I think she's feeling me, turn it up a few degrees. My imagination of her body gets the best of me.